Greetings, brothers and sisters. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum anastana. It's a pleasure to be back with you here on Points of Light Radio. And it's also, shall we say, a double pleasure to be kind of revisiting a topic that we briefly touched on in the November 13th, 2023 segment of Points of Light Radio. And that topic was appendant bodies, rites, and side orders of our fraternal organizations, right? Like I said, we briefly touched on that. And today we'll try to, shall we say, dig that hole a little deeper, because I love revisiting some of these topics. We're going to try to answer questions like what side orders and rites are available to us when we are part of these organizations, that helps us further, shall we say, our journey within fraternalism, which I think we all agree is something that many of us want to do, right? And it's another one of those segments where I'll be bringing in guests to help us understand what's out there for us and how that might benefit us. You've heard me say this before, I do believe that those of us who don't at least try one of these appendant bodies or side orders or rites of our organizations, we do really sell ourselves short, because there's a lot to be learned and a lot more, and it can enrich our journey in fraternalism. So let's move forward, brothers and sisters. Let's see what's available. Let's learn together. Trim your lamps. Follow me. You may recall our new friend Austin Schifrin from last year. He was in here talking about his experience in the Force number 60 of the Tall Cedars of Lebanon, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Right? It was interesting to hear. Let's just retrace our steps here and see what he had to say about his experience in the Tall Cedars. Now, and I've heard it said that from Freemasons that you learn a lot about yourself as you go through the degree system. So did you learn even a little more about yourself as you went through the Tall Cedars?
Yeah, I feel like I did. And it might be a little challenging to articulate, but I know that I came to the Tall Cedars after I had experience in some other bodies, both as a member and in leadership positions. And it was nice to dust off some of these lessons and be reminded, I still have, it was nice to come someplace and realize that I still had something to offer. I didn't feel like a has-been, right? I was, I could step in as somebody who was of value to this branch. And they said, hey, if you have, if you're willing to step up and offer and assist to help things function, to help things run, we've got a place for you. And that was certainly a good feeling.
So now I know that some places, like for instance, the Muscovites have separated from the Oddfellows and things like that. Are you saying that the work you did in the Blue Lodge was actually necessary before advancing into the Cedars? Would you agree with that?
I can't say for you 100% whether I feel that it was necessary. I definitely feel like it was an asset, right? Because number one, I will say I don't ever foresee Tall Cedars fracturing off away from Freemasonry. Thought number one. Thought number two, because Tall Cedars organizational structure clearly mimics Masonic organizational structure, if you've come up through a progressive line of chairs in a Blue Lodge, and you've seen officers do floor work, and you understand minutes, and you understand some of these structural aspects, then you're showing up in Tall Cedars, you've got all of the orientation that you need.
Now, Steve Dunkelberger is a regular contributor here on Points of Light Radio. He's a member of a number of fraternal orders. Let's see what he has to say about the benefits of side orders and appendant bodies in fraternalism. But do you feel that your experience in, shall we say, the Knights of Pythias, do you feel that it was beneficial to getting into the Dokies, the Dramatic Order of Knights of the Khorasan there? Do you think it was really beneficial in any ways? Do you think that it was helpful, shall we say, in understanding it?
Oh yeah, I mean, the more I know about any fraternal lodges, I always had that, it not only affects the history, because I'm a big history guy, the history of the lodge and how lodges have morphed over time, but it does translate from other lodges. That any experience in one lodge can be beneficial to another lodge in some.
Yeah, I mean, that has been one of the issues as well with appendant bodies, that a lot of people are quite content to come into the primary lodge and then, well, you know what, I'm here, like we're talking about dues. Mm-hmm. That's just another more dues to pay. That's just more, I mean, I think you'll agree with me. They kind of shortchange themselves a little when they.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Now, I talked to my new friend Bork Mancini. Now, he's the Noble Grand of the Cornubian Oddfellows Lodge in the United Kingdom at Manchester Unity, and he talked about the fact that they don't have appendant bodies, but you're going to love this when you hear about the interesting alternative that they seem to have to appendant bodies. But you don't have appendant bodies or anything like that?
Appended bodies?
Yeah. Like
well, we do have.
Yeah, because
we do have friendship groups. Yeah, we do have friendship groups, and the friendship groups are normally attached to the lodges. So not only do we have ceremonial lodges, but on occasion, normally during the afternoons, we various lodges have friendship groups, and they meet for a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, some refreshments. There might be talks by outside guest visitors. A lot of charitable fundraising is done in those friendship groups, a raffle and so on and so forth, and they're pretty well supported actually. We, as I say, the guest speakers are always popular. They come in and talk about a variety of subjects because we're very much a community-based organization. We're part of the community that we're in.
Now, I talked to my friend Sir Knight Nathaniel Clayton. He's a member of the Memento Black Preceptory 975s in Innisfil, Alberta. It's interesting what he had to say about how his experience in the Orange Lodge really benefited him in the preceptories. Let's see what he had to say. Now, do you feel that your experience within the Orange, shall we say, helped you absorb your Royal Black Preceptory degrees together? Because I do know, for instance, there are organizations within the Loyal Orders, like the Protestant Knights of Malta, where it is not, you don't have to be a Purple Arch Orangeman to get in. But do you find that your experience within the Loyal Orange Lodge and the degree system there really helped you, shall we say, absorb your Black Preceptory degrees better and understand, shall we say, the whole process?
Yeah, I can see that. It's I find it's a good prep because you learn more with the Orange. You learn how to prepare for the degrees.
Yeah.
So when you get to the Black, you've had that practice preparing for the degrees, going through the degrees, so you kind of know, okay, I need to be ready to absorb. It's not just like you're walking in blind, like, oh no, what's going to happen?
Yeah, very, very true. Now, Mike Dominiak has been here on Points of Light Radio a number of times in the past. Most recently, you saw him here on December 4th of last year discussing his book called Audistic. Now, Mike Dominiak is the Deputy Grand Master and Grand Secretary Emeritus of the Odd Fellows. He's also in the Patriarchs Militant and the Encampment. Let's see what he has to say about his experience and the benefits that he's received from being part of these appendant bodies. Okay. Now, what do you feel that the Patriarchs Militant, shall we say, and Odd Fellowship has done for you?
For me, it really opened me up to everything beyond my local area. I had just started going to Grand Lodge as a rep, and I ran into a visitor from the General Military Council, and this was I was at a department council meeting as just a regular member. I didn't have any special offices, and he found out that I could play the bugle, and he said, "Well, we could use someone to play the bugle at the international level because not many people know how to do that." And so a couple of years later, when he went into office as the general commanding, I was on his staff as the bugler general, and that was the first time I went to the sovereign Grand Lodge level of session, and that was back in 2010. And from there, I met so many people. I got involved. I learned so much more about what was going on, and I mostly stayed involved entirely in the Patriarch Militant branch beyond my local lodge level. But over time, that had me end up being the military age of the Sovereign Grand Master, and that took me over to the Sovereign Grand Lodge side, where I learned more of the people over there, what's going on, and it kind of brought me out of my shell, would be the best way to put it.
Now, on December 10th of last year, you met Anthony McCool. He's a Freemason and the host of The Coolest Life Masonic podcast. He's also in multiple side orders and independent bodies of the Freemasons. Let's see what he has to say about his experience there.
Yeah.
Well, that was one thing you wanted to talk about today as well, was the appendant bodies and rites. So,
Okay.
like how many different, have you ever counted them? How many different appendant bodies and rites are available to a Master Mason? Because I know you have to be a Master Mason to get into most of them.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't even know. I know it's pretty common. There's a big circle that they use as an example of the different appendant bodies. They have it. You can find it online. I've got a copy of it. I can probably send you. But it kind of spreads them all out and shows them. It's got the grotto on it, Order of the Amaranth, Eastern Star, a lot of those organizations on it. But gosh, I don't know how many there are. As far as a first level, I always say first level because there's appendant bodies within appendant bodies, like Red Cross of Constantine. You can't not just be a Master Mason and join the Red Cross. You have to be joining York Rite and then be invited to Red Cross. So as far as that first circle, probably, oh gosh, my guess would be 15 or 16. But the three I mentioned, Scottish Rite, York Rite, and Shrine, are basically the three major ones.
I find new ones all the time, it seems. It's like, I described it as an onion. The more
Tall Cedars would be one of those. Grotto would be one of those. You don't find a whole lot of those nationally.
No.
Like, I don't think there even is a grotto in Georgia. I haven't seen one, but there's definitely some in Florida. So just depends on the jurisdiction.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and there's some that aren't, like you say, some that are very common in the U.S. that you don't see in Britain or Canada. It's like, it's really, like, it's a different...
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Why don't more like Freemasons join them?
I think the ones that get involved that are past masters tend to join the other organizations. It's more rare to find a past master that has not joined another appendant body than that has joined an appendant body. So I would say its numbers probably about 70% of all past masters are in an appendant body in some way, shape, or form, if not multiple, like myself.
Yeah, and are some of them maybe not aware of them? Because I have, we have organizations up here that are not very common in the U.S. as well, but I think some of them are invitation only. But the
Correct.
problem is sometimes maybe they're a little too secretive. Maybe people like if I've often said this, if someone's not aware that it's available to them, then they're not even
Correct.
gonna look into it. But
Correct. Because I mean, it comes down to, in that case, it basically comes down to popularity contest. I mean,
yeah,
if the guys in that organization don't like you or want you to join, then they're not going to invite you to join. A great example of that would be the shrine. So you can join the shrine, but only about 10% of the shrine are in the jesters, and it's an invitation only. Also, so I'm a jester, but there's not, but not like I said, only about 10% of Shriners even get invited to be jesters. So it's just one of those organizations within the organizations that.
we'll have to do an interview on that.
Okay.
Do you have
Sure.
the order of the secret monitor down there? Because I know that's another one that is available here, and it sounds very beautiful and elaborate. But it's not very common in the U.S. I don't think.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one. I don't know of any other members
There you
either.
go. Yeah, it's amazing, and but I think you'll agree that I sometimes think that when members of any fraternal stripe, when they don't join one of those appendant bodies or rites, I think sometimes they're really cheating themselves of the full experience you can get.
No question. Absolutely. I mean, it really, well, you used an analogy of the onion, and it really blossoms, and you find out so much more about the organization.
Okay, brothers and sisters, let's see what we've learned here. Austin Schifrin from the Force number 160 Tall Cedars of Lebanon, he said that he felt that his time in the Craft Lodge and other appendant bodies, and don't forget he was in a number of other appendant bodies before joining the Tall Cedars. He said that he felt good, that he had still had something to offer. And he said it was kind of his experience in those in the Craft Lodge and the other appendant bodies. You know, he said it was nice to dust off some of the lessons he'd learned there and apply them in the Tall Cedars, and I like that. You said it definitely an asset, right? And sometimes we think that we've contributed or received everything we can from these orders, that we're in, but who knows, right? You don't really know until you move forward into something else, right? Bork Mancini from the Manchester Unity Oddfellows in the UK said, talked about how, now this is why I included this, okay? Because the Manchester Unity don't have appendant bodies, but those friendship groups and so on that they have within the Manchester Unity Oddfellows, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? I do find those to be great alternatives. And as I've said this before about the Manchester Unity Oddfellows that he's part of in the United Kingdom, it really does sound like, as I like to call it, it's fraternalism in action. I really do like to see that, right? Now, Sir Knight Clayton says that the orange degrees that he received really helped him absorb his degrees in the Black Preceptory, right? And he did talk about how it was a wonderful continuance of that journey that he started within the Orange Lodge. I think that's great. And I will agree, he's in a wonderful preceptory there. I know some of the men personally that are in there, the gentlemen, those brothers, those knights. I love them. I really do, right? Mr. Dunkelberger believes that you get out of fraternalism really what you put into it, right? And that sometimes joining a fraternal body can be a wonderful extension in a way that you use joining an appendant body can be a wonderful extension of that, experience that you get in the primary lodge. I will agree with that. Now, Mr. McCool agreed with me that Freemasonry is just like an onion, right? There's so many different appendant bodies and side orders to it, right? and you've heard me talk about that before, that it would be very hard to get bored in Freemasonry with everything that's open to you, especially in the larger population centers. It really would be, right? And he did agree with me that when members don't join at least one side order or appendant body of their fraternal order, they're really selling themselves a bit short of the whole experience, that enriching experience, right? Mike Dominiak said that when it comes to odd fellowship, joining the encampment and the Patriarch's Militant really, it opened up a whole different experience to him. And he, as he put it, brought him out of his shell. I like that. Hey, you know what? That's takes something to be able to admit that, right? But this is part of being in this. These side orders and appendant bodies are part of being in these fraternal orders. They really are. They can really enrich your experience, and you can find that a lot of people, like I know personally, as I've often said, when I joined the Orange Order in 2005, I wanted to, and you've heard me say this before, I wanted to get my Purple Arch degree so that I could join the Black Preceptory. I will admit, as you heard Brother Clayton admit, that those were necessary degrees to get before moving on, right? I can't stress that enough. And but this is what I will say about this is I'm glad we revisited this topic of the side orders and appendant bodies, because it's nice to swing back to these kinds of topics once in a while. It really is. But what I would say, if your organization that you belong to, especially these esoteric ones, they usually have side orders and appendant bodies. And I've seen recently that a lot of them are shutting down some of their branches and in stuff in certain areas, and I find that rather upsetting. Right? But as I keep saying, they have so much to offer, and if your organization does have these side orders and appendant bodies, and you feel like you're getting a bit stale in the primary lodge, right? Or you have more questions about the degrees. Like I've heard it said, for instance, after you've been in the Craft Lodge, or as they call it in the States, the Blue Lodge, many people have questions about still have questions about their degrees and so on, and some of the questions that remain unanswered after being in the Craft Lodge. And they talk about how this is one thing I heard about Royal Arch. It often answers many of those questions. Am I wrong? Okay, come on, Royal Arch. I've wanted to feature your organization for quite some time. Come on here and let's talk about that, right? But I will find that, right? I do find that, and as I've said, many of these guys felt that it had really enriched their experience. They all had that. If you notice, they all when you heard them talking, they all talked about that common theme, that it was fulfilling. It made their journey that much more fulfilling, right? So as I keep saying, these organizations are often like onions. There's more to be explored. There's more to be learned. Brothers, sisters, let's move forward together and see that, right? And I'll leave it there. Before I go, I want to remind you that this podcast is available on both YouTube and Spreaker. Players, please share, like, and subscribe when viewing Points of Light Radio on YouTube. I also welcome your comments and input. You can see the link to my PayPal. You can hit on that link, make a voluntary donation to Points of Light Radio. We will use that to move the podcast forward. Points of Light Radio is not a sponsor-driven podcast, brothers and sisters. My Facebook page, you can see the link to my Facebook page, facebook.com/Points of Light Radio. My Twitter handle is @PO Light Radio. My Bluesky handle is at polightradio.bsky.social. You can see the link to my Spotify channel, as well as my Points of Light Radio store brothers and sisters. It's been a pleasure revisiting this topic with you today. And it's been a pleasure fellowshipping with you today. And until we meet again, just step into the light.